Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're headed to Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, we're going behind the scenes of their city council meetings from March 2024,
Okay.
specifically March 13th and 25th.
All right.
Now, I know what you might be thinking, city council meetings, right?
Yeah, I can see where you'd go with that.
But don't worry, we're not going to subject you to hours of zoning debates and budget approvals. We're here for the interesting stuff, the stuff that matters.
Right. And these meetings, they're like little time capsules, They give us a snapshot of what life was like in Flint just 6 months ago.
Exactly. What were the big issues that got people talking? What were the debates shaping the city's decisions?
And even those little details, the ones that don't make headlines, but they give you a real feel for the heartbeat of the city.
I like that, the heartbeat of the city. And speaking of things that get the heart pumping, our friends over at the Minusca Masterpieces podcast, they gave us a heads up. They always have their ear to the ground.
Oh, they're plugged in for sure.
They told us, you, our amazing listeners, are fascinated by fire trucks.
Fire trucks, classic.
And guess what? There's a whole fire truck saga unfolding in these minutes.
Oh, really? All right, so this is right up our alley then. But, on a serious note, it's a great example of how decisions made at the local level, they can have these ripple effects that spread out. We often get caught up in national politics, but local government, that's where the rubber meets the road. It's where the decisions get made that directly impact your everyday life.
That's so true. So, okay, let's jump into that March 13th meeting. Now, it starts off pretty standard. You got your roll call, your invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, the usual.
Right, the formalities. But even those routines, they can actually tell us a lot, Like who's there, who's not. How do those initial moments set the tone for the meeting? It's like a little window into the dynamics at play, maybe even hints at some underlying tensions or alliances.
It's all about reading between the lines.
Exactly, reading between the lines.
Okay, so fire trucks.
Yeah.
The minutes mentioned the city's need for a new one.
A new fire truck, okay.
But not just any fire truck. They're talking about a specialized vehicle, something designed for tough terrain. And remember, this is for you, our listeners, because we heard your fire truck fascination.
Special shout out to all our fire truck fans.
So tell us, why would Flint need this kind of specialized fire truck?
Well, Flint has some unique geography, right? There are areas that are really tricky for a standard fire truck to navigate. So this specialized truck, it's not just about having the latest and greatest, it's about being prepared.
So it could be a real difference maker.
Absolutely. Could be the difference between a swift response and, well, a much more challenging situation.
Yeah, that's a high-stakes decision for sure. And it gets to that core issue of how local governments balance limited budgets with essential services, right?
100%.
It's not just about buying a shiny new truck. It's about investing in the safety and well-being of the entire community.
Couldn't agree more. And that balancing act, it actually leads us to another big topic from this meeting: community grants. It's always a challenge, right? Figuring out how to allocate those limited funds fairly, especially when you have so many worthy causes all vying for support.
Right, and the minutes really highlight this debate. You could almost feel the tension as the council members weigh the pros and cons of each request. So to really illustrate this, maybe let's zoom in on a specific example.
Okay, yeah, let's make it real.
So there was a request for funding to support a youth arts program. A youth arts program.
No, that's a great example, right? Arts programs, they can be so valuable, especially for young people. Creative outlets, building confidence, fostering a sense of community.
It's more than just arts and crafts, right?
Yeah. Exactly. But the question is, are they seen as essential as, say, fixing potholes or, public safety? These are the tough choices local governments have to make, trying to stretch those dollars.
Tough choices, for sure. And often those choices spark some pretty passionate debate. Speaking of which, let's fast forward to that March 25th meeting. Things get kind of interesting.
Oh, how so?
Well, one council member had to recuse themselves from a vote.
Seems there was a potential conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest. Yeah, that's a big one in government. Basically, it's when someone's personal interest could influence their decisions on the council.
Right. So it's about making sure things stay fair and impartial, right?
Exactly. Making sure decisions are made for the good of the community, not for personal gain, It's about maintaining that public trust. It reminds me of this one time I was asked to judge a chili cook-off.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. But my best friend was one of the contestants.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one.
I know, right? They had to back out. Even if I could be objective about it, it just wouldn't have looked right.
Totally get it. It's about avoiding even the appearance of impropriety, as they say.
Exactly. So even though the minutes don't get into the specifics of this particular conflict of interest, it definitely makes you wonder, right? Like, what's the backstory? What are the relationships at play here, the power dynamics within the council?
Right, sometimes those little details, those omissions, they tell a bigger story than what's actually written down.
Totally. Now, let's shift gears for a moment. Let's talk about the public comment period.
Always an interesting part.
Right. It's the chance for residents to share their thoughts directly with their elected officials, to voice their concerns, share ideas, really hold their leaders accountable.
Direct democracy in action.
And in these minutes, we hear a real range of concerns from the people of Flint. Some spoke passionately about affordable housing. Others, they were really concerned about the condition of the roads, those everyday issues that have a real impact on their lives.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that these meetings, they're not just about abstract policies. They're about the things that affect people's daily lives, their homes, their families, their ability to get around safely. It's about real-life consequences.
So true. And speaking of getting around the city, the March 25th meeting had an interesting discussion about a proposed development project.
Okay, what kind of project?
Seems like a local developer wants to build a new shopping center.
A shopping center. Okay.
Yeah, and this is where it gets kind of interesting. The minutes, they kind of hint at some differing opinions about this project. Some council members, they see it as a great opportunity for economic growth.
Right, new businesses, new jobs.
Exactly. But then others, they're worried about the impact on the surrounding neighborhood.
Ah, so it's that classic dilemma. Progress versus preservation.
Exactly. On one hand, you have the potential for new businesses, jobs, a boost to the local economy. But on the other hand, you have to think about the existing residents, the environment, the character of the neighborhood.
Tough balance to strike.
It really is. And ultimately, it's the city council's job to weigh those competing interests, listen to all sides, and make the decision that's best for the entire community.
Not an easy job.
Not at all. And, while the minutes don't actually give us a resolution on this particular project, they do highlight just how complex urban planning can be.
Absolutely. There's always a lot to consider. And it underscores the importance of citizen engagement in that process, too, because at the end of the day, it's the residents who have to live with the consequences of those decisions, right?
100%. And speaking of consequences, another issue that comes up in these minutes is Flint's ongoing struggle with its infrastructure, specifically its water system.
Right. That's something that's been in the national spotlight for years.
It has. And the minutes, they show that while progress is being made, it's clear there's still a lot of work to be done. There's this one comment from a resident during the public comment period that really stuck with me. She talks about how the water crisis, how it impacted her family's health, and just shook her trust in the local government.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is. It's a reminder that these infrastructure issues, they're not just about pipes and pumps. They're about people's lives, their well-being, their sense of security. It's personal.
Absolutely. And it speaks to that need for transparency and accountability from those in power. The community needs to know that their concerns are being heard, that their needs are being addressed, that their leaders are working for them.
Right. Rebuilding that trust is essential. Now, it's not all doom and gloom in these minutes. There are some bright spots, too. For instance, there's a resolution passed to support a local community garden initiative.
Oh, I love that. Community gardens are fantastic.
They are. What do you think makes them so special?
Well, for one thing, they increase access to fresh, healthy food, which is huge. But they also create these wonderful community spaces, places for people to come together, learn new skills, and just connect with nature and each other.
It's a simple idea, but it can have such a ripple effect, right?
Exactly. It's about so much more than just gardening. It's about building community from the ground up.
Yeah, it's amazing how something as simple as a garden can bring people together and make a real difference.
It's true. It's about those small steps, those local initiatives that often fly under the radar but have a huge impact. And speaking of impact, something else caught my eye as I was going through these minutes, kind of a recurring theme, actually.
Oh, tell me more.
All those resolutions, the ones honoring local folks and organizations.
Oh, right. Those often get lost in the shuffle, don't they? But they're important.
They are. And they actually say a lot about the character of a city, Like, what do they value? Who are their local heroes?
Like a public expression of gratitude.
Exactly. It might be a teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students, a local business celebrating a milestone anniversary, or a community group really making a difference.
It's like the city council's way of saying, hey, We see you, we appreciate what you do, you make us proud.
Precisely. And those gestures, even if they seem small on paper, they can mean the world to the people receiving them.
Oh, absolutely. It's about recognizing those everyday heroes, the people who make a community special.
It builds a sense of pride, a feeling of belonging. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Flint, I'm curious, what were your biggest takeaways? What surprised you? What stuck with you?
For me, it was the resilience of the people. They've been through so much, but they're still showing up, making their voices heard, fighting for their city. It's inspiring.
Absolutely. And it's a good reminder that local government, it's not some abstract thing. It's about people, people's lives, their hopes, their struggles. And it's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping our communities.
Couldn't agree more. Whether it's attending a city council meeting, volunteering your time, or just staying informed about local issues, every little bit counts.
It does. So thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this deep dive into Flint, Michigan. We hope you found it as fascinating as we did.
It was a pleasure, as always.
And remember, we want to hear from you. What city or town should we explore next? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on our next deep dive into the world of local government. Until next time.